Today I wanted to explore with you a little bit what the suttas say about generosity, giving and sharing. And there are a lot of suttas about this. I only took a number of them. But often when we talk about giving or dana, as it is called in Pali, we tend to think it just means to pull out your wallet and give money. And we can certainly do that, but there are many more things we can do that don't involve money. If beings knew, as I know, said the Buddha, the results of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given, nor would the stain of miserliness overcome their minds. Even if it were their last bite, their last mouthful, they would not eat without having shared, if there were someone to receive their gift. But because beings do not know, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they eat without having given. The stain of miserliness overcomes their minds. So sharing food is quite easy to do when you eat with more people at home or on the work floor. And especially when you know that someone really loves that particular food item that is on your plate. But if you live alone, you can still share food. I don't know if it's the case in other countries, but here in the Netherlands, we have what is called the food bank, where you can give a part of your shopping and they will divide it amongst people who have very low incomes. So that is also a way of sharing food. Or you can give food to the birds, or put out some cat food in the garden in late fall for the hedgehogs, for instance. The Buddha said, even if a person throws the rinsings of a bowl or a cup into a village pool or pond, thinking, may whatever animals live here feed on this, that would be a source of merit, to say nothing of what is given to human beings. But I do say that what is given to a virtuous person is of great fruit, and not so much what is given to an unvirtuous person. And the virtuous person has abandoned 5 factors and is endowed with 5. Which 5 has one abandoned? One has abandoned sensual desire, ill will, sloth and drowsiness, restlessness and anxiety, and uncertainty. So the 5 hindrances. These are the 5 factors one has abandoned. And with which 5 is one endowed? One is endowed with the aggregate of virtue of one beyond training, the aggregate of collectedness of one beyond training, the aggregate of discernment, wisdom of one beyond training, the aggregate of release of one beyond training, the aggregate of knowledge and vision of release of one beyond training. These are the 5 factors with which one is endowed. I tell you, what is given to one who has abandoned these 5 factors and is endowed with these 5 bears great fruit. So this is talking about giving to an arahant. The arahant does not have any attachment to what is being given, but they will accept the gift out of compassion as a way for the recipient to receive much merit. Giving and sharing is always good, even to those tiny creatures in a pond, and it generates merit. but the more wholesome the individual, the better the results will be. Bhikkhus, these 8 persons are worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of reverential salutation, an unsurpassed field of merit for the world. Which, what 8? The stream enterer, the one practicing for a realization of the fruit of stream entry, the one's returner, and the one practicing for the fruit of one's returning, the non-returner, and the one practicing for the fruit of non-returning, the arahant, and the one practicing for the fruit of arahantship. But this does not mean that one should limit generosity to these beings that have attained paths and or fruitions. It's just that this would produce the most merit. In the next sutta, it is being explained that one should give with 3 factors and one should receive with 3 factors to create the most merit. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathan Pindika's park. Now, on that occasion, the female lay follower Velukantaki Nandamata had prepared an offering possessed of 6 factors for the Sangha of Bhikkhus, headed by Sariputta and Moggallana. With the divine eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, the Blessed One saw the female lay follower Velukantaki Nandamata prepare this offering, and he then addressed the bhikkhus. Bhikkhus, the female lay follower Velukantaki Nandamata is preparing an offering possessed of 6 factors for the Sangha of bhikkhus, headed by Sariputta and Moggallana. And how is an offering possessed of 6 factors? Here, the donor has 3 factors and the recipients have 3 factors. What are the 3 factors of the donor? The donor is joyful before giving. She has a placid, confident mind in the act of giving. And 3, she is elated after giving. These are the 3 factors of the donor. And what are the 3 factors of the recipients? Here, the recipients are devoid of lust or are practicing to remove lust. They are devoid of hatred or are practicing to remove hatred. They are devoid of delusion or are practicing to remove delusion. These are the 3 factors of the recipients. Thus, the donor has 3 factors and the recipients have 3 factors. In such a way, the offering possesses 6 factors. It is not easy to measure the merit of such an offering thus. Just so much is the stream of merit, stream of the wholesome nutriment of happiness, heavenly, ripening in happiness, conducive to heaven, that leads to what is wished for, desired and agreeable, and to one's welfare and happiness. Rather, it is reckoned simply as an incalculable, immeasurable, great mass of merit. Because just as it is not easy to measure the water in the great ocean thus, there are so many gallons of water, or there are so many hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of gallons of water, but rather it is reckoned simply as an incalculable, immeasurable, great mass of water. So too, it's not easy to measure the merit of such an offering. Rather, it is reckoned simply as an incalculable, immeasurable, great mass of merit. Prior to giving, one is joyful. While giving, one settles the mind in trust. After giving, one is elated. This is success in the act of offering. when they are devoid of lust and hatred, devoid of delusion, without taints, self-controlled, living the spiritual life, the field for the offering is complete. Having cleansed oneself and given with one's own hands, the act of charity is very fruitful for oneself and in relation to others. Having performed such a charitable deed with a mind free from miserliness, the wise person, rich in faith, is reborn in a happy, non-afflictive world. Of course, in the time of the Buddha, there were no bank accounts or credit cards, but if given the choice, it would probably always be best to give in person with your own hands, as it is said in the above sutta. Because there are these 5 gifts of a good person. What 5? One gives a gift out of faith. One gives a gift respectfully. One gives a timely gift. One gives a gift unreservedly. One gives a gift without injuring oneself or others. The Buddha said that this way leads to many benefits, amongst others, becoming rich, handsome, people will listen to you, you will receive timely benefits, and when you give without injuring yourself or others, no damage will come to your property from any source, whether from fire, floods, kings, thieves, or displeasing heirs. He also said that you can't salvage things if you keep them. They will disappear in one way or another. But what is given bears fruit as pleasure, which can't be taken away or destroyed. So next I will read a sutta that goes into the motivation of giving. Sariputta, there is the case where a person gives a gift seeking their own profit with a mind attached to the reward, seeking to store up for themselves with the thought, I'll enjoy this after death. They give their gift, food, drink, clothing, a vehicle, a garland, perfume and ointment, bedding, shelter and a lamp, to a Brahmin or a contemplative. What do you think, Sariputta? Might a person give such a gift as this? Yes, Lord. Having given this gift, seeking their own profit, with a mind attached to the reward, seeking to store up for themselves, with the thought, I'll enjoy this after death. On the breakup of the body after death, they reappear in the company of the 4 great kings. Then, having exhausted that action, that power, that status, that sovereignty, they are a returner, coming back to this world. Then there is the case of a person who gives a gift not seeking their own profit, not with a mind attached to the reward, not seeking to store up for themselves, nor with the thought, I'll enjoy this after death. Instead, they give a gift with the thought, giving is good. They give their gift to a Brahmin or a contemplative. What do you think, Sariputta? Might a person give such a gift as this? Yes, Lord. Having given this gift with the thought, giving is good, on the breakup of the body after death, they reappear in the company of the devas of the 33. Then, having exhausted that action, that power, that status, that sovereignty, they are a returner, coming back to this world. Or instead of thinking giving is good, he gives a gift with the thought, this was given in the past, done in the past, by my parent and grandparent. It would not be right for me to let this old family custom be discontinued. On the breakup of the body after death, they reappear in the company of the devas of the hours. Then, having exhausted that action, that power, that status, that sovereignty, they are a returner, coming back to this world. Or instead, they give a gift with the thought, I am well off. These are not well off. It would not be right for me, being well off, not to give a gift to those who are not well off. On the breakup of the body after death, they reappear in the company of the contented devas. Then, having exhausted that action, that power, that status, that sovereignty, they are a returner coming back to this world. Or instead, they give a gift with a thought, just as there were the great sacrifices of the sages of the past. In the same way will this be my distribution of gifts. On the breakup of the body after death, they reappear in the company of the devas who delight in creation. Then, having exhausted that action, that power, that status, that sovereignty, they are a returner coming back to this world. Or instead, they give a gift with the thought, when this gift of mine is given, it makes the mind serene. Gratification and joy arise. On the breakup of the body after death, they reappear in the company of the devas who have power over the creations of others. Then, having exhausted that action, that power, that status, that sovereignty, they are a returner coming back to this world. Or instead of thinking, when this gift of mine is given, it makes the mind serene, gratification and joy arise, they give a gift with a thought, this is an ornament for the mind, a support for the mind. They give their gifts, food, drink, clothing, a vehicle, a garland, perfume, or ointment, bedding, shelter, or a lamp, to a Brahmin or a contemplative. What do you think, Sariputta? Might a person give such a gift as this? Yes, Lord. Having given this, not seeking their own profit, not with a mind attached to the reward, not seeking to store up for themselves, nor with the thought, I'll enjoy this after death, nor with the thought, giving is good, nor with the thought, this was given in the past, done in the past by my parent and grandparent, it would not be right for me to let this old family custom be discontinued. Nor with the thought, I am well off, these are not well off. Nor with the thought, when this gift of mine is given, it makes the mind serene and gratification and joy arise. But with the thought, this is an ornament for the mind, a support for the mind. On the breakup of the body after death, they reappear in the company of Brahma's retinue. Then, having exhausted that action, that power, that status, that sovereignty, they are a non-returner. They do not come back to this world. This, Sariputta, is the cause, this is the reason why a person gives a gift of a certain sort, and it does not bear great fruit or great benefit, whereas another person gives a gift of the same sort, and it bears great fruit and great benefit. So the intention behind the gift is very important. Giving with a selfish desire can still bring good results, but those are temporary. And giving with an unattached, selfless mind leads to nibbana. And when you make positive choices, you reinforce the next time you have an intention to do something. Now, it might be a bit daunting to hear that there are causes and conditions and motivations for giving that are less wholesome. You might even feel that there is no way that you could give with the purest of intentions. But like many other things, we can learn this too. In the Dhammapada, it tells us how to do that. Conquer stinginess with a gift. So become more generous by practicing it. Giving is still giving. Even when you want to practice this and initially you notice that you have some mixed motivations for doing this, over time this will change. When you start to incorporate generosity in your life and start to pay attention to occasions where you could be generous, you purify your mind. And over time you will notice that giving and sharing things brings you much joy. Maybe even more so than the recipient. It actually starts to reinforce itself. You can even make a practice of the recollection of generosity, which the Buddha frequently advised. And when one day we are dying, it would be much better to die with a happy mind, recollecting the good we have done, than to die with sorrow and regret. As an aside, it is also important that we should not prevent other people from being generous, because the Buddha said, one who prevents another from giving alms creates an obstruction and stumbling block for 3 people. What 3? One creates an obstruction to the donors acquiring merit, to the recipients gaining a gift, and already one has maimed and injured oneself. One who prevents another from giving alms creates an obstruction and stumbling block for these 3 people. What I also like to point out, particularly since we practice the Brahma Viharas, is that there is a clear connection between generosity and the Brahma Viharas. Certainly the first 3 of loving kindness, compassion, and empathetic joy. They reinforce each other, where generosity can give rise to the Brahma Viharas and vice versa. Bhikkhus, if someone were to give away 100 pots of food as charity in the morning, 100 pots of food at noon, and 100 pots of food as charity in the evening, and if someone were to develop a mind of loving kindness, even for the time it takes to pull a cow's udder, either the morning, at noon, or in the evening, this would be more fruitful than the former. Therefore, bhikkhus, you should train yourselves thus. We will develop and cultivate the liberation of mind by loving kindness and make it our vehicle, make it our basis, stabilize it, exercise ourselves in it, and fully perfect it. Thus should you train yourselves. Already in the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, the Buddha tells us to understand, amongst other things, that there is what is given and what is offered and what is sacrificed. There is fruit and result, karma, of good and bad actions. So even though the word generosity is not mentioned in the Eightfold Path, it is so important that it has been included in the mundane right view. And not only that, but the Pali word for generosity is jaga. And the word jaga also means giving up, abandoning, or renunciation. So while it is usually not mentioned as part of the second path factor of right intention, which is renunciation, non-ill will, and non-cruelty, it can be viewed as a part of renunciation. Renunciation means loosening the attachment to sensual pleasures. It counters greed. And as you probably know, the Buddha stated many times that we need to abandon the unwholesome roots of greed, hatred, and delusion through the wholesome roots of non-greed, non-ill will, and non-delusion. So greed produces bad karma, while non-greed, so generosity and giving, leads to either good karma, or when the mind has become completely pure, no new karma is being generated at all. Generosity can be a very wholesome, selfless state of mind. It is obvious that it can make the recipients very happy, but it might be less obvious that when you make giving and sharing a part of your life, it will change you too. It can lead to great joy and growth in our own practice. Many of us have not really been taught to be generous and to share things. And even if we have, it's often presented as a kind of moral obligation to give to people that are less fortunate. That was one of the things the Buddha mentioned in that sutta. But giving is so much more than that. And it's also not always material. Bhikkhus possessing these 5 qualities, a bhikkhuni is deposited in heaven as if brought there. What 5? She is not miserly with dwellings, families, gains, praise, and the Dhamma. Gratitude and thankfulness is also a way of being generous, as is giving of one's time and attention, a smile, or just being patient. And I want to close off with a comment on this final little sentence that you can find in the Dhammapada. A gift of Dhamma conquers all gifts. So the highest gift is not material at all. It is sharing the Dhamma so that other people can learn that there is a way out of suffering. And this is the reason that the Sangha of monastics does not need to beg for alms food. No, they completely deserve it because they share the Dhamma and keep it alive. They give us the highest gift. So they are truly deserving of receiving food, robes, shelter, and medicine. So, are there any questions or comments?
Thank you, Sal. That's so lovely.
Thank you, Sal.
So I would like to thank you, thanks Sil for giving us a more in-depth on the generosity, the background of our intention. So it is a more better and our understanding towards what we our actions when we do that. It is certainly giving me more in-depth of looking at what myself is doing in terms of when we are able to do small gifts. It is certainly very, 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 very deep in understanding for me. A little better. And your meditation guide is very, very nice. I like the surrounding of the directions, which is not left, right, but it's going around. It gives a ring first before we go. That makes a difference there for myself too. So thank you. I would like to just give this comment. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for that. Generosity. I like to be generous because it feels good. And is that okay? To reap in the like it's kind of like a reward, but it also it helps other people. So I mean, it is a little self-seeking, but I like I like to give because it's
Yes, but we are no arahants yet. And giving, as the Buddha said, even to those tiny creatures in the pond will still generate merit and will still make you happy. And that is good. We can't expect to have a completely 100% pure mind when giving just yet. An arahant can, but before that, yes, there might be some self-serving little motivation or big motivation, who knows? But it is still a very good thing to do, and it will still help you to purify your mind. And I've noticed this in myself because I came from a family where my parents didn't donate money to certain causes, for instance, and generosity was really not talked about. And I will not say that I was very miserly, like the Buddha said, very stingy, but I also didn't feel like it was a natural thing for me to do. So when I became a Buddhist and I started reading these suttas about generosity, and I started to understand the importance of generosity, I just said to myself, yeah, well, maybe my intentions are not completely pure yet, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't start practicing generosity a bit more. And I found that over time, I started to do it more and more. It started to pop up in my head like, hey, maybe I see an opportunity here to either donate money or to share my food with my son, who is always hungry and is eyeing that tasty food item on my plate or whatever. And the more I started to do this, the purer the motivation started to become. I could notice that in my mind, that it started to become something more natural, and it gave rise to a lot of joy. Also, like the Buddha said, before sharing and also afterwards. So I would most certainly never underestimate giving in whatever way. I think the more you start to do it, the more it will help your practice, and the purer your motivation and intentions will become.
yes,
that
beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very nice. I am giving every year, once a year, for 36 months, every once a year, December, Dana. And
Could
recently
you
also,
speak up a little bit, because I'm on laptop and I can't hear you very well.
yeah, it feels really nice all through the year because I am giving a big Dana for 30 months, 6 months, 6 months.
Yeah.
Every year in Sri Lanka, one temple, it's a hospital. And I am giving hospital cancer patients. It feels really good every day, every day.
It's really
Especially giving to the
beautiful.
sick people. Sick people, you
Sorry?
feel whole through the year. Oh, sick people, sick, ill people. When you give the food and dana, sometimes when I was small, I used to go to the hospital and feed the cancer patients, jello and everything. Whole through the life, it stays in your mind.
Did you ask a question at the end? Because I couldn't quite get that.
No, I said
Okay.
it feels very nice. It feels
Okay.
really nice.
Yeah, I think that is really great what you are doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, but I sometimes think that it is, but maybe that is not true at all. But I have the impression that in certain Asian countries, it's more natural to to give dana and things like that, or go to a temple or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think we as more Western countries could learn a lot from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly in the Netherlands, people are naturally quite stingy. So for instance, when people visit, then generally they will get a cup of coffee or tea and one biscuit. And then they should leave. And it's really ridiculous.
So
So
our culture, if somebody comes, we said, okay, you need to stay for meal. We quickly prepare full meal for them.
yeah,
It comes naturally. It's not, I think, stingy, because we learn from when we are youngsters, small age, we see the people always giving the things, and that's what happened in the.
yeah, I think that is really beautiful. And I wish we would do that more in certain other countries like my country, because I've often noticed that people that are not from the Netherlands are so warm and inviting, and that's really so different for Dutch people themselves. There are, of course, also generous Dutch people, but generally speaking, we could learn a lot from that. Yeah,
Yeah.
really beautiful, Sudani.
Yeah, and when I was pregnant, because we used to give every day when we are young, my mother was to give myself, everybody is giving basically. When I was pregnant, you won't believe how much food I got to my house. Lots of food. I didn't even cook for a few months at my home. When
Wow.
you give something, you are definitely in the future you will get something
Yeah,
way more similar or differently.
yeah, it's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It's quite an inspiration, I think. Yeah.
And one little thing I learned when I was, preteen, right? Like it's about 10 or 11. Always, being come from a Buddhist country, just like Sadani said, it's a nature, right? Like it's like we have like 4 o'clock in the morning, all the monks are lining up and coming for a breakfast round, and sometimes we got it like a twice. Some of them only come once, so we'll be like cooking in the nighttime. So I'll be helping, like my mom or my aunt, and then like so the feeling, the nice feeling about this, that putting just a plain rice in these bowls, right? Like it makes me happy.
Yeah.
And then like one little thing I learned from one of the monk is for kids, like so that we can train our kids that way too, right? Sometimes they say, oh, like I don't have anything to give being a kid, right? I don't have anything to give except I'm helping my mom for cooking these things. And then he was saying, no, you do, like just grab a grain of like a handful of rice and then feed to the chicken or like birds, right? Like it's just started that way. So I think it's like generosity can be a practice. That's what I'm trying to say, right? So yeah, like Sadani, like we are trained since we were young, so
Yeah.
we know like kind of the value that makes you how happy,
Yeah.
So yeah, like another thing is it doesn't have to be a food or money, even with a
Money,
smile
yeah,
or
anything,
help with,
kindness,
Yes.
right? Anything, and
yeah,
with the
anything.
time, generosity of your time, like volunteering, right? Like so I guess, so many ways
Yeah.
for us to give.
And when you are saying that, Kim, it makes me realize that it's also, when I hear you, a great opportunity for your family to do these, to prepare food together for the monastics, for instance.
Oh,
So it's also a great
Yeah.
family get together,
Yes.
apparently. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very big thing, especially one, you know, I live in a city, and then there's a little block of the city, and every full moon days in October, after the third days, right, full moon days in, you know, of October, we cook. Right, every single house in the whole block cook. How nice! I just wanted to share. You know?
Yeah.
This practice was in the Buddha time, they did that, but even in Burma, it's become so rare and rare, right? So this is one of the rare events that I grew up every year, you know?
Yeah.
So like my mom will be cooking like a one dish, and the neighbor will be cooking like a one dish. No invitation needed, right? So like in the morning, like we got the monks, like whoever comes to our house, like always, right? Like it will be like 4 or 5 or, you know, any amount that we can have. So we will be offering them food. And after that, like especially being a kids, right? Like I don't want to eat my mom cooking. I want to go to the people's house, and then like we'll be going in and out of the house, and then we'll be eating the whole day. It's so much fun and so much joy. We'll be, you know, like we'll be hoping like for the next year. We'll be, you know, pre-planning and doing, right? Like, and when I get a little older, instead of eating it, like I'm just going to make more food so that people will come, you know, to my house. And it's so much a joy, right? Like that's why, like right now, it's like when I even rethink about these things, like when I have a difficult days in the meditation, I rethink of those and then bring back this joy. I have a PT arising so fast in my meditation. Before I hit my cushions, I always have this rapture. It's like, you know, one of the big thing. I think is all of it is maybe because of
It's one of the 6 recollections.
yes.
Generosity.
So, you know, these dana in any way, right? Like it's you helping people, you helping monastic. It's like you can recall that memory and bring it. It become a so much helpful support for your practice.
Yeah. I've noticed that too, but it had to grow with me. I really had to learn it. And nowadays, it's exactly like you say, just thinking about it brings up a lot of joy and pity, and it makes you happy.
Yes. Yeah, even these sessions, right? Like it's like you know, and after that, the whole Sunday, it's nobody can ruin my Sunday, I tell you that, you know. I'm so happy that I'm in the cloud 9, you know. I'm always happy, right? Like hearing the Dhamma talk from you or anybody else, right? Like and everybody seeing everybody smile, and so, you know, I encourage,
it's like a birthday, I feel.
And I encourage for all of us to even like a 3-4 people, just Zoom sessions, you know, like Monday night session, whatever, right? Like it's so that support each other in a way that we, you know, we will be doing practice, you know, because like a lot of us need some motivations to practice, right? And on top of it is like that the joy that you will have out of these are like unreal, I tell you.
Yeah.
It's
really true. Yes.
Yeah, it's really.
Anyone wants to share their Dana stories, you know, or anything, any questions?
Actually, hi Sue, I have a question again. I have find myself some difficulty along my my personal life journey. I have always this is becomes like already a thing that built in for me to feel like I'm not ready or I'm not well done enough that myself has not much to, it's not about tangibles, it's about like internal well-being or knowledge that I wasn't able to share, even with my son. You know, I wasn't able to conduct well enough in many ways that I wasn't able to do if I was not. So it was to some stage that I was seeing that this is a problem of myself, that I'm not having a good enough knowledge, or even though I have the knowledge of a knowledge of understanding of what things should be or what it has to be carried out, and I need to actually be able to get internalized before I can even teach or educate the closest. So it creates a boundary for me in previous, especially in the last few decades, which I was having many chances of interacting with people or work conditions and friends, until lately. Yeah, this is my deprivation that I see a lot always inside. So I aspire to people that are sharing knowledge, which I was so, I find myself a little bit incapable. I would really want you to share that, because I was seeing myself, I'm trying very hard there. Like I'm trying daily to just hear a little bit there, to work with friends, colleagues, that I want to transmit what I have been learned. You know, understanding well is not good enough for me to not be able to actually to express. This is what I've been having difficulty. So I would really love you to share a bit there for me.
The one thing that you are saying in every sentence I have heard so far is, I am not perfect. I need to be perfect. You are extremely hard on yourself. Really. Changes usually happen step by step. For instance, as a personal example, most people would think that I'm quite sociable, that I can easily talk to other people. Yes? But decades ago, I really had trouble talking to other people. I was very shy and I didn't utter a word. But I was suffering from that. So one day I said to myself, I really need to learn to be more at ease around people. So I gave myself a little piece of homework. I said to myself, today, when I pick up my son from school, I'm going to pick a parent and talk about the weather. And I did. And the result was really nice, because they were easy to speak with and we had a little chat about the weather. And I kept practicing this over time. Just day after day, when the occasion was there, I gave myself these tiny little chores. Today, I'm going to start to talk with that person who is maybe a bit less approachable, or I'm going to talk about this or that. And over time, I really started to learn to engage with people, up to the point that people said, you are shy? You could have fooled me. But this is just an example. But if you want to change, first of all, stop the tendency to be perfect. Because the difficulties we have with certain things have been piled up over time. started to become a part of our personality. But it is not set in stone. Even when you are 80 years old or 100 years old, you can still change. But don't set yourself ridiculous steps like you need to be perfect the day after tomorrow. No, just give yourself little practices to work with, little tiny steps along the path. And over time, just like practicing the 6 R's, over time, it will become easier and easier. And you will start to worry less about that perfectionism. Does that make sense?
I think I think you're right. Yeah, that's one big hindrance that I have there, that I have been told, like not just here, but I noticed that. So it's not shine, it's shame, or maybe I can see maybe that was something that has. I'm not very shy person. It's just that. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, well, I understand what you mean. And I learned a lot from the Dhamma now. It was a change of perspective and letting out, which is also another thing that I need to work on. It's just that I've seen people that so well then able to let out, that I'm learning a lot there. Yes. That is the perfection and the seriousness in terms of like beating up myself. That's what Ante and everyone is trying to teach us not to do that, right? You're right. Thank you so much.
But that shame is also just a hindrance. It's just a hindrance. You have a little thought in your head that entails shame, just let it go. It's not only about sloth and torpor and restlessness and lust and delusion and things like that. Shame is also just a hindrance that you can let go of. As soon as you notice a thought like that popping up, just 6R and let it go.
Can I add one thing though? Don't forget.
Smile.
Right? Yeah, don't forget, right? Like it's when we were practicing metta, very first thing we learn is love ourselves.
Yeah.
Sending the metta to ourselves. Someday, if you are too frustrated, don't forget about the surrounding or, directions or anything. You yourself need to love a lot more, right? Then everything will be felt in a place.
Yeah.
Right?
Really beautiful.
So, yeah. So just
thank you. Yes. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everyone here. Actually, this group is just wonderful for like sharing and learning a lot. Yeah, I benefit so much from Dhamma.
We all are learning from each other and sharing everything, right? So this is I think it's a beautiful community that we are building. It's really great, and yeah.
I just want to say thank you to Sue and Kim. First and foremost, the meditation guide was beautiful. I would love to. I'm glad that it's recorded because I probably will listen to it again. Also, when you guys talk about the topics, I just remember the image of the glass that is filled with water, and remind me the metta is naturally unfold. So when the cup is filled with water, it's naturally gonna lash out and share the extra water with its surrounding. So it's a natural process, and sometimes we don't need to speed it up or beat ourselves up if we cannot help. But it is what it is, and we practice this within us first and foremost. So thank you very much.
You make me realize something, namely that because of the Dhamma, over time I started to feel more content. less materialistic. And this makes it also easier to become more generous, because I feel like I don't need all kinds of stuff. So it's like the Dhamma reinforces these qualities of generosity, because I don't know if it's for you the same, but that contentness carries really far somehow.
Yes, I agree. I agree. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah, thank you all. Thank you, Sal, too, right? Like, this is beautiful Dhamma talk, you know, like you've been putting so much time for the community. You should see the amount of the time Sal, you know, spend, and then, you know, individual replying to the email, Telegram group. So I strongly suggest that if you have any questions or anything, you know, please join. It's wonderful. She's doing so many amazing things. And I really like to thanks to the community too. You open up your mind and your heart to make the whole community happen, right? Like it's
Exactly.
just, yeah,
Exactly.
just two of us can't be a community. And I like to thank Austin too, that like we spoke at one point, and then, you know, like just happened to make it happen, you know. And of course, DSMC, David is like very supportive of our group. So hopefully we can go a lot stronger and continue. So hopefully you guys can join, like whenever you have time. We're trying to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful group.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Keep in mind light, this group.
Yes.
Yes, making in mind light, yeah, which is nice. That's the thing we need to do.
Yes. You know, all these, you know, things are happening in the world, right? Like we have to remind each other, you know, there's a beautiful thing out there too. So
Yeah.
such as this group. So, all right, with that note, let's share merit. So everybody can unmute and share with me. May suffering ones
Be suffering free,
and the
and
fears
fearless be.
may the
May the
grief
grief
share all grief,
may all
may all beings
find relief.
may all
find relief.
All beings share this
All beings share this merit
all the
that we have thus acquired, the acquisition of all kinds of happiness.
may being in
The beings inhabiting space and earth,
favors
devas and nagas of mighty power,
merit
share this merit of ours.
may they
May
long
they
May
long
long protect the Buddha's
dispensation.
dispensation.
Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Hope
you.
to see you next
Thank
week.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Kim. Thanks,
Thank you.
Bill.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Kim.
Bye.
Thank you, Sil.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.